Okay, so now we're going to start lesson 2 about shares, the Windows firewall, and malware on Windows. So to start the virtual machine, you should have extracted the folder and then clicked on the triple blue squares to start it, and then edited the virtual machine settings so that way it matches your computer. I'm not going to do 16 gigabytes from memory, and I'm going to have 2 processors. I know it may seem like we're moving pretty fast, and I know I talk pretty fast, especially on the last stream. I went pretty quickly, but that was because we already went over it at the meeting, and because since it's a YouTube video now, you can go back on it and re-listen to what I said and watch me do it again. So if you ever find yourself at a loading screen and you want to get out of the virtual machine and you're moving your touchpad or mouse and you can't see your mouse because it's in the virtual machine, press Control and Alt at the same time, and then this is the normal computer and not in the virtual machine. Just something useful. Okay, so as soon as we come in, we notice that Optimizer Pro tells us that our PC needs optimization and that 733 issues are found. Well, I'm not sure that there are 733 issues on this computer, but Optimizer Pro is one of them. It is considered a virus. It's probably going to install more malware when you say start new scan or call them or do whatever they say, but we'll deal with that later. First, we read the README. It says that it's normal, and you're just going to be scored on shares, firewall configuration, and malware removal. So we could look for Optimizer Pro, but the first thing I notice is that Firefox is on this machine with Internet Explorer. Usually, if they give you Firefox, it's not going to be a good thing. You don't want Firefox if it comes with the virtual machine. It is good, but it's only really good if it's installed by yourself. So we're going to remove it. To do that, we go to the control panel, uninstall a program, and we see Firefox here. We right-click it, and we click uninstall. And then it takes us through the uninstall wizard. It's as easy as that. Now it's gone, we probably have a point. But we were looking at Optimizer Pro earlier, and it's not even on here. So what do we do if you can't just use the control panel to uninstall something? In that case, you have to look with Windows Explorer. This is like Windows Explorer is the same thing as if you clicked the start button and then computer. It takes you to the same interface. So whenever you're looking in Windows Explorer or in Start and then Computer, the first thing you want to do is view hidden files and folders. To do this, you click Organize, Folder and Search Options, View, and then Show Hidden Files and Folders. And then you can also uncheck Hide Extensions for known file types. So you can see if something's a .exe executable that shouldn't be. So program data, this little grayed out folder means that it's hidden. So you couldn't see it if we didn't uncheck the unable to view hidden files and folders. But the first thing we want to look at is program files. Sometimes there's also, on normal computers, there's also program files space x86. In this case, there's only a folder of program files. Never go into the CyberPatriot score report. You could seriously mess things up. So we go into program files, and we see VMware. You also don't want to touch VMware. Windows Defender is just it's like an antivirus that comes built in with Windows. But the important thing is PC Optimizer Pro. We don't want it here. So there is an uninstall.exe, which we could run, or we could right-click this and click delete. Yeah, it's opening another program. So what do you do when it says things like this? When you try to delete a folder, if it doesn't have this handy uninstall.exe, when you try to delete it and it says, oh no, you can't do that because it's open, it means you have to close it. So to close it, we actually have to use Task Manager or Process Explorer. But it's easy to use Task Manager because I don't have Process Explorer here right now. So Task Manager, you can either right-click the taskbar and click Start Task Manager, or you can press Control, Shift, and Escape at the same time. That will also open it up. So right now, we see Applications, which is only us looking at this. But the more important thing is Processes. You'll also see Services, which is like the services snap-in that we saw before. You can see it in a different way. But the important part is Processes right now. So conhost.exe, although it sounds ominous, because con, like a con man, a confidence man, it sounds bad. It's actually good. csrss.exe is also good. This is good. Explore.exe, that's this one. PC Optimizer Pro and PC Optimizer Pro Tracer, that is not good. And this RVLKL is actually also not good. I happen to know it stands for Revealer Keylogger. It showed up on the semifinals. It's really hard to get rid of because it's really good at being hidden. Smart Apps, Task Engine, Task Host, Task Manager, which we're running, VMware Tools, Windows Logon, and TP Auto Connect are all okay. You could argue that ThinPrint, because if Charlie's watching, he's going to argue that ThinPrint is not actually a great thing to be on there. But for this case, we're not going to worry about it. The main things that we're going to worry about is PC Optimizer Pro, because remember, we want to take care of that first before we deal with Revealer Keylogger. So the way you do it is you right-click it, you click End Process Tree. That will stop it from running. I want to do that to this as well, because it's also connected to there. Now that the folder is not running, we can delete it. Oh no, it started up again. What are we going to do? So in this case, if a program is like PC Optimizer Pro is made for not being able to do this, the Cyber Patriot is not going to be mean enough. I can show you it later, how to take care of it, but Cyber Patriot is not going to be mean enough to include it without an uninstaller. So this should be the first thing that you go to, and if you don't notice it, come back and look for it. It might be uninstall, it might not say uninstall, it might say uninst.exe. If you double click that, it should uninstall itself, and it's not going to do anything bad. I know you can say that you could argue that it might be actually install more malware when you click uninstall, and that would be a really evil virus. But in most cases, that's not going to happen. So now we get to deal with this RVLKL. We didn't reveal a keylogger. We did not see it when we looked at the uninstall list. So how do we delete it? How do we know where it is? Well, I happen to know that for Revealer Keylogger, if you press Control Alt and F9, it starts it up, and then it actually records everything that you do. And so that's an easy way to test if it's on there. It doesn't necessarily replace looking for it, but if you press Control Alt and F9, it toggles it being showing it to you and not. So that's just a quick way to test if it's on there in one of the Cyber Patriot rounds before looking for it. But the way to delete it is you go into the C drive, it's actually in the startup folder, which you can go into program data and it's going to be there, or you can go into the startup folder of your user and it's also going to be there. So the way to get to the startup folder, you can go in a complicated path, which you're not going to remember if I tell you, in users and then hacker and then app data. But it's easier to press the start menu, click all programs, and click startup. And there's RVLKL right there. So we can delete it. But remember, it's also in program data. So we have to get that too. Folder file is open in it, so you have to do the same thing. And process tree. So now you're saying, well, there's PC Optimizer Pro. It's not done yet. Well, it's not actually PC Optimizer Pro. There's no executable file in here. This is just the logs that it kept. So, and as it notified us, there are some folders that it didn't delete, and then it would have deleted if we restarted the machine. So it's important, if you uninstall something, if you really want to get all the points for it, sometimes Cyber Patriot might not register it until you restart the computer. So that's deleting malware from the system. Do that when you notice it, and if you have nothing left to do, you can always look around in the C drive, just clicking on folders and trying to find something. There's also media files that Cyber Patriot considers a vulnerability, so you can just look around in here if you really know nothing about what to do, if you have a lot of time left. So one of the first things that I do when I get into a virtual machine is I start command prompt, type in CMD, you right-click it, and you run it as an administrator. This is really important, otherwise you'll get an access is denied message. So it starts up in here. The way to navigate command prompt is, it's kind of like Windows Explorer. So for example, watch, Windows, System32. These are doing the same thing. This is just text-based. So if I press dir, it lists these files. This is just text-based. This is click on some buttons. So for example, if I wanted to go up a folder, I would press back. If I wanted to go up a folder in command prompt, I would do cd space ... Now I'm in Windows. It's the same thing. If I wanted to go down a folder, cd space and then the folder name. So for this case, System32. Windows is not, I didn't have to have this capital S because Windows is not, it doesn't matter if you have a capital or lowercase, but Linux is. So that's important to remember. If you're mistyping something in Linux, it might be because you didn't capitalize something. So that's just how to navigate it, for example, but that's not really important right now. The important thing to do with command prompt once you get in is to type this command, net space share. This shows you the shares that are on the system. So these are the folders that are just given out, broadcasted to everybody. The little $sign after it means it's hidden, which means it's not, people can't see it, but if they know what it's called, they can still access it if they know your username, any usernames and passwords. So, for example, these are the default ones, C, IPC, and admin. So this shares the C drive. This is a remote IPC. Don't mess with it. Don't shut it down. And this shares the Windows folder. This one is I added. It's malicious. It shares the users folder. So to get rid of a share, this is the fastest way, is to press net share and then C $/delete. That's all it takes. Now when we type in the command net share, the C $sign is gone. Don't delete IPC. That's bad. It'll probably come back, but you shouldn't do it. But you should delete all the others. We're going to do it a different way now because not everybody's going to remember how to do it with command prompt. The easier way is to go to our trusty friend, Microsoft Management Console. It's not as fast, but if you don't know how to use the command prompt, it's easier. So you press File, Add or Remove Snap-in, and scroll down Shared Folders. Double click it. Shares. This shows the same thing as if we typed net share on the command prompt. As you can see, I deleted the user share. Now we can stop sharing Windows, that folder, and we can stop sharing the users folder. That should also get us some points. Okay, the last thing that we're going to do on this image is the firewall. Now, a lot of people, when you think of security on computers, the firewall is the first thing you think of. But as you've seen from the things that we've done so far, it's much more than that. The firewall just blocks, basically, it blocks ports. So you can get through Control Panel. But the problem with Control Panel is it's in System and Security, Windows Firewall. The problem with Control Panel is that it doesn't show you everything. Watch this. Turn Windows Firewall on or off. Turn it on. Turn it on. You don't get to see everything. You just get to see a few buttons. So in order to do that, you can click Advanced Settings, which shows you this. Technically, for a domain, it's off. We don't want that. If you want to see more about it, you can either click Advanced Settings, or you can go back into MMC, Microsoft Management Console, and you can add the snap-in Windows Firewall. So as you can see, there's a bunch of useful snap-ins in MMC. So if you really wanted to, and you wanted to do everything through MMC, you could add, all the snap-ins that we talked about: users, services, shared folders, and now firewall. So you could use all those and do everything through Microsoft Management Console if you really needed to and you liked it. We're going to be talking about Group Policy Object Editor later. Same thing with security comments and security configuration. But not today. Today we're just dealing with firewall. So we double click it, and we saw the same thing as when we clicked Advanced Firewall Settings before. We click Windows Firewall Properties, Firewall State. Even though we saw it as on in the control panel, it was actually off as the domain profile. So we want it on, and then have the two default settings right there, block and allow. Because I could, as an attacker or as someone who's setting this up this image, I could put allow and allow for both. And even if you turned it on, it doesn't actually do anything because I just allow all connections. So make sure you check that these are set to the default after you turn it on. We check that the next one, the private profile, is on and it has the same thing. We check the public profile is on and it has the same thing. Okay, so now the firewall is on. That's not it. We now have to check the inbound and outbound rules. So we scroll down and click on inbound rules. These are all the rules of what to let through and what to block. So in this case, it lets remote assistance in and remote desktop, and we don't want that. So you click the top one, you hold down Shift, you click the bottom one, and then it selects all of them. You right click it and click Disable Rule. No, it's not there. A lot of times, if something's evil, like Telnet will be on there, and you should stop that. You should disable that rule. Same thing with SNMP, and sometimes there'll be malware-related things on here that allow malware through. So like Netcat is an example of malware, or like Optimizer Pro or Revealer Keylogger. If for some reason it interacted with the network, there might be an added rule here that it's not good. So you have to look at it and make sure. The spooler service wasn't scored for a while, but just in case, we're going to shut down the spooler service as well. So I would look at the outbound rules. The outbound rules, for the most part, are probably going to match the inbound rules. Remote assistance is still here. It's going to look almost the same, if not the same. But telnet is not there. So it is different in that way. So that's it for this one. All you need to do, remember to do shares through the command prompt or through Microsoft Management Console. Remember to turn on the firewall and check the rules on it. And then remember and make sure you do the firewall through Microsoft Management Console Advanced Settings and not with just Control Panel. And then also remember to check on any malware, and remember the 3 ways to delete it. You can use the uninstall list from Control Panel. You can delete the folder itself or find the uninstall button in a folder, or you can delete the folder entirely. If you delete the folder, sometimes it might say you're not allowed, you do not have permission. That's not until later rounds. It says it's a different message than a program is running in it. It says you do not have ownership of this folder. We'll take care of that in later rounds. So shut down the virtual machine. To go over it again, don't shut it down like this or like this, where you like power it off pressing that button. The correct way to shut it down so that way it doesn't have any problems is pressing start and then shut down.